In this lesson, we'll create a head control. Let's grab our line tool. What we'll do is go ahead and create a shape we'll use for our head control. I'll enable grid snapping, and you can follow my lead. We'll make it super cool. Alright, so we'll go ahead and just create a shape that we can wrap around the character's head. Great. I think this will work out well. Let's go ahead and grab our rotate gizmo. I'll turn off snapping, and I'll enable angle snapping. Let's go ahead and rotate this up 90 degrees. Alright, so from here, we can go ahead and quick align this over to the head's nub. And now it's just a matter of bringing the size down a bit. Might go to the modify panel, head over to our vertex of object level. Let's grab our scaling tool. Let's go ahead and change the pivot to selection center. From here we can start to kind of bring this down a bit. Maybe scale it out in the x-axis. Bring this down a bit more. Alright, sweet. Now what I'd like to do is go ahead and take the outer points. Let's go ahead and control click those. And we'll go ahead and scale them in just a bit more. That's better. Let's go ahead and take all of our points. I might go ahead and translate them down a bit more. Great. Alright, so there we have it, our head control. We can now go ahead and take this object and color code it. So we're using that same shade of yellow. Great. Let's now rename this. That's going to be anim head 01. We'll go ahead and find our controls layer, and we'll have it stored there. Alright, so now it's time to do a bit of cleanup work. Let's go ahead and hide our mesh. We'll go to our hierarchy panel and choose Effect Pivot Only. And now let's go ahead and press Shift A to quick align the pivot over to the head bone's pivot point. This is where the object should, of course, pivot from. Alright, perfect. Now once we've managed to do that, we can then go ahead and reset the X-form on this. And then we'll make sure to collapse it down. From here, we can have this linked over to our net control. Alright, great. Once we have managed to link the object, that's when we'd go in and freeze our transforms. Now keep in mind, this control should only rotate. So what we can do is head over to our hierarchy panel, and underneath link info, here's where we can lock down certain axes that we should not move in. So we know that this should only rotate, so we can lock down movement and scale. And now if we try to move this object, we cannot. If we try to scale the object, we cannot, but we can rotate it. Great. Now, how do we control the head bone? Well, we can work with a helper, and by doing so, we can do a clean orientation constraint without keeping initial offset. So this is how we would get this done. We'd basically head over to our create panel, there we go, and we create a point helper. Let's go ahead and just add that to the scene, and we'll now go ahead and use Alt-A to align this to our head bone. In position, orientation, that looks good. Let's say we go to our modify panel and increase the size of this so it's easier to select and see, right? Okay. From there, we'll have this stored in our hidden layer. Great, go ahead and bring that back. Next, let's go ahead and have this renamed to PT DRV head 01. Alright, sweet. Now, what is this going to be linked to? Well, this is going to be linked to our head control. So let's go ahead and take care of that. And now, since this object matches the transforms of our head bone, we can apply a clean orientation constraint. So we'll grab the head bone. I'll go ahead and Alt-right click and grab the orientation constraint and click on the helper. Alright, take a look. It kind of shifted the head bone a bit. If that ever happens, it's very simple to tweak. I'll go ahead and undo that back. It's just a matter of going back to the helper and rerunning the alignment tool. So Alt-A, we'll go ahead and use that. We'll click. And once we've managed to do that, we'll grab the head bone. We'll now grab the orientation constraint and apply it back to our helper. And take a look, nothing has shifted. Alright, sweet. Let's test this out. We'll grab our head control, we'll bring our mesh back, and we'll start to kind of move this control around. Sweet, so everything's working just fine. Awesome. Alright, so there we have it. We've managed to create a head control in this lesson. We've also learned how to lock down movement on our control, so it's very clear for animators to know exactly how the control should be used. Now, before we end this lesson, I'd like to point out that let's be mindful of our layers. So you'll notice that the helpers we created in the previous lesson have been stored in the hidden layer. I've just went ahead and taken care of that step because that's what we all have to do anyway. If you wait till the very end, you can do it then, but this is something we want to do before we hand our file off to an animator. We want to make sure everything is as clean as possible, so it's a good idea after you're done to just kind of check your layers and make sure everything is stored in the right place. So again, that finishes this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to create brow controls.